Hello and welcome to CatScan. My name is Adam Green, and it's once again time to talk about the Arizona Wildcats. Now, before we get into everything that happened last weekend, let's get one thing out of the way. Matt Scott and concussion gate. Look, I don't know if the Arizona quarterback suffered a concussion after taking a hit to the head from USC safety TJ McDonald in the fourth quarter Saturday. Yes, he puked, and then threw a touchdown pass 2 plays later before being removed from the game. Scott says he threw up from exhaustion, not a head injury, but that does seem like a convenient excuse for many. Here's the way I see it. I really hope Rich Rodriguez did not let his quarterback play if he suffered a concussion. No football game is worth the player's health, and I'd like to think that's understood this day and age. That said, there's no proof that he did, in fact, have a head injury. So who's to say anyone did anything wrong here? Anyway, moving on. Arizona versus USC. What a game. The Wildcats pulled off a 39-36 upset in part because of Matt Scott's brilliance, and in part because of Lane Kiffin's stupidity. Scott accounted for 469 of Arizona's 588 yards on offense, while throwing for 3 touchdowns and running for another. Kiffin, on the other hand, Marquise Lee, who caught 16 passes for a conference record 345 yards, was largely ignored in the second half, save for one of the dumbest plays I've ever seen. With USC up 2 and facing a 4th and 2 at the Arizona 29, Kiffin called a reverse for Lee that picked up just 1 yard. It was a huge play as the Wildcats took over and scored the next 13 points, which gave them enough of a cushion to survive USC's late rally. Though I'm not going to lie, like everyone else in that stadium, I could just picture Barkley's Hail Mary being caught in the end zone. Fortunately for our sanity, it was not, and the Wildcats got the win. Credit for this one belongs to the usual suspects on offense. Scott was excellent, Austin Hill had 10 catches for 259 yards, and Kadeem Carey was a workhorse, with 28 carries for 119 yards and a touchdown. But make sure not to overlook Jeff Castile's defense. Don't get me wrong, USC helped out by turning the ball over 5 times and committing 13 penalties for 117 yards in the afternoon. But the Wildcats allowed just 15 points in the second half of this game, which gave the offense time to get going and ultimately win the game. Linebacker Marquise Flowers was named the Pac-12 Defensive Player of the Week after picking off 2 passes. He forced a fumble, collected 7 total tackles. He was excellent. Nicely done. With the win, the Wildcats improved to 5-3 on the season and 2-3 in the Pac-12. They're ranked 24th in the AP poll and 22nd in the BCS standings. It's strange to say, but Arizona pretty much controls its own destiny from here. The Wildcats are 1 win shy of bowl eligibility, and they'll get that. But their schedule sets up nicely for a late-season push. 2 of the next 4 games are at home, and the Wildcats will likely be favored in 3 of the next 4. Win out, and chances are good the Wildcats will have earned the right to get slaughtered by Oregon in the Pac-12 championship game. Which, yeah, that'd be nice, I guess. But really, at this point, the season has to be considered nothing but a success. They have wins over 2 top 25 teams, close losses to 2 others, and no bad losses. Now, there's still time for those, sure. But Rich Rodriguez and his staff have done a masterful job with his team. And if you're not optimistic about the future, well, you should be. Anyway, Arizona's next game is likely the last one they'll be underdogs in, and even then it's a close spread. The Wildcats are visiting UCLA in a game that will determine just how far they go this season. Win, and the Pac-12 South is theirs for the taking. Lose, and this can still be a nice season, just not a magical one. Now, if history is any indication, the Wildcats will win this one pretty easily. They have not lost to UCLA since 2006, which is a stretch that includes some blowouts like last year's 48-12 romp. But these are not the same Bruins. New coach Jim Mora has his team playing some good football behind quarterback Brett Hundley and running back Jonathan Franklin, and they'll be wearing these brand new, pretty awful uniforms in Saturday's game, so really they deserve to lose because of these. Hundley, a redshirt freshman, is a threat with his arm and his legs. He's coming off a 4-touchdown pass performance against Arizona State and has thrown 18 touchdown passes and run for 5 scores on the season. Franklin, a senior, has already tallied 1,042 yards and 6 touchdowns on the season. Now, Arizona coach Rich Rodriguez knows the Bruins, who spread the ball around and average 33.4 points per game, will be difficult to stop.
They'll spread you out, and they'll if you have weaknesses, they'll try to expose that. And so we got to be really sound defensively, and we got to hope we get a couple breaks. And then on the flip side, we've got to get first downs as an offense. We got to maintain control, or as much control as we can with our offense.
Chances are good this game will be a shootout, and in that case, you have to like Arizona's chances. The Bruins, like the Wildcats, are a good but not great team. They may be at home, but I think Scott will outduel Hundley Saturday at the Rose Bowl. My prediction, Arizona 41, UCLA 31. Well, that's going to do it for this edition of CatScan. For more on the Wildcats, including their men's basketball team, which begins exhibition play this week, you can check out the podcast I co-host with Jarrett Carlin called Bearing Down. And if you want my thoughts on a variety of topics, you're encouraged to follow me on Twitter @TheAdamGreen. Thanks for watching, and we'll listen again next week right here on ArizonaSports.com.